Did Hollywood's golden age hide a darker reality beneath its glittering facade? From suspicious deaths to studio abuse and disturbing cover-ups, these stories reveal the shocking truth. Ever wonder why Clark Gable's breath was so notorious that co-stars complained in private while smiling for cameras? The mysterious death of Thelma Todd. Thelma Todd was Hollywood's ice cream blonde, a comedic genius who stole scenes from the Marx Brothers and Laurel and Hardy. But her 1,935 death in a locked garage became one of Tinseltown's most chilling, unsolved mysteries that haunts film historians to this day. Found dead in her car on the 16th of December 1935, Todd was still wearing an elegant evening gown, mink coat, and diamond jewelry from the previous night's party. The official ruling? Carbon monoxide poisoning. But the bizarre circumstances told a different story. Blood on her face, the garage locked from the outside, missing car keys, and her body positioned unnaturally. None of it added up to suicide or accident. Todd had powerful enemies. Gangster Lucky Luciano wanted to open a gambling operation in her popular restaurant and had allegedly threatened her when she refused. Her ex-husband still held partial ownership of her business and had a history of violence. Both had motives. Most disturbing was how quickly investigators closed the case, despite glaring inconsistencies. Studio pressure likely played a role. Todd was under contract to Hal Roach Studios, and her death threatened several productions. Some Hollywood insiders whispered that her body was actually discovered elsewhere and moved to stage the scene. For decades afterward, rumors persisted that Todd was murdered, with some claiming she had a red diary containing dangerous secrets about Hollywood elites. The truth died with her that December morning, leaving behind only questions and the eerie sense that someone got away with murder in broad daylight. The vicious feud between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. Hollywood rivalries were common, but the hatred between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford transcended professional competition and evolved into something frighteningly personal. Their mutual loathing produced some of the most bizarre behind-the-scenes behavior in film history and ultimately culminated in one of the most awkward moments ever at the Academy Awards. Their animosity allegedly began in the 1,930 seconds over actor Franchot Tone. Davis fell for him while filming Dangerous, but Crawford swooped in, seduced him, and married him instead. Davis never forgave the slight, later saying, "She took him from me. She did it coldly, deliberately, and with complete ruthlessness." By the time they co-starred in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? 1962, their hatred had reached pathological levels. During filming, Davis reportedly installed a Coca-Cola machine on set, knowing Crawford was on the Pepsi board of directors following her marriage to Pepsi's CEO. Crawford retaliated by wearing weights under her costume for a scene where Davis had to drag her across the floor, causing Davis to strain her back. The most diabolical moment came at the 1963 Academy Awards, when Davis received a Best Actress nomination for Baby Jane, but Crawford didn't. Crawford contacted the other nominees who couldn't attend and offered to accept on their behalf. When Anne Bancroft won instead of Davis, Crawford gleefully pushed past Davis backstage to accept the award, creating one of the most cringeworthy moments in Oscar history. Davis later quipped about Crawford's 1,977 death. "You should never say bad things about the dead. Only good. Joan Crawford is dead. Good." Their feud remains Hollywood's most legendary battle of egos and spite, Charlie Chaplin's underage marriages. The beloved Little Tramp had a disturbing pattern that shocked even permissive Hollywood. Charlie Chaplin, one of cinema's greatest geniuses, repeatedly pursued and married teenage girls, some barely out of childhood. His obsession with extremely young women revealed Hollywood's darkest open secret and nearly destroyed his career. In 1918, 9-year-old Chaplin married 6-year-old actress Mildred Harris after a pregnancy scare. The marriage quickly collapsed, but Chaplin's pattern was just beginning. His most troubling relationship came in 1924, when he became involved with Lita Grey when she was just 12 years old, casting her in his film The Gold Rush. By age 16, she was pregnant with his child, and Chaplin, fearing statutory charges, married her in secret in Mexico. Their divorce papers, leaked to the press, contained shocking allegations about Chaplin's behavior and preferences that nearly ended his career. The public was horrified, but somehow Chaplin's stardom allowed him to weather the scandal. Remarkably, he continued the pattern, marrying one 8-year-old Paulette Goddard when he was 47, though she claimed to be 22. His final marriage in 1943 proved most controversial of all five. 4-year-old Chaplin wed one 8-year-old Una O'Neill, daughter of playwright Eugene O'Neill, who disowned her over the relationship. While this marriage lasted until his death, the pattern was unmistakable and deeply troubling. Studio executives worked overtime to protect Chaplin's image, burying negative stories and paying off potential accusers. The contrast between his lovable on-screen persona and his disturbing private behavior created one of Hollywood's most jarring disconnects. A secret hidden in plain sight. For decades, MGM's secret experimental animal farm. Behind MGM's roaring lion logo lurked one of Hollywood's strangest hidden facilities, a secretive experimental animal farm where bizarre breeding programs and training methods created animals specifically engineered for the once farm screen. This animal laboratory operated under extreme confidentiality for decades, creating the perfect photogenic beasts for Hollywood's golden age. Established in the 1,932 miles from their main studio lot, this facility, it wasn't just a place to house animal actors. It was a bizarre genetic and behavioral laboratory. Former employees revealed that MGM conducted unusual breeding programs to produce animals with specific cinematic traits. Horses with uniquely photogenic gaits, birds trained to land on exact marks, and even attempts to breed smaller, more manageable lions for the studio's famous logo. The farm maintained a disturbing reject section, housing animals with unpredictable behaviors or physical characteristics deemed unsuitable for film. These animals existed in a strange limbo, neither usable nor releasable. Some kept for years in isolation. Perhaps most disturbing was the animal conditioning program. Animals were subjected to increasingly intense stimuli, including heat lamps, artificial environments, and unusual sensory experiences to prepare them for the unnatural conditions of film sets. One room, chillingly called the desensitizer, gradually acclimated animals to the extreme heat and noise of Technicolor production. When animals died during production, which happened with disturbing frequency, they were quietly replaced with identical-looking substitutes. The public never knew that Lassie or Rin Tin Tin might be multiple different dogs in the same film. The farm's existence was kept so secret that many Hollywood historians only confirmed it decades later through property records and personal accounts from former employees who finally broke their silence. The curse of the Misfits film. The Misfits, 1961, wasn't just a troubled production. It became Hollywood's most notorious curse film when its 3 leading stars all met tragic ends shortly after filming wrapped. The eerie coincidence transformed a challenging shoot into something that felt unnervingly supernatural. Written by Arthur Miller specifically for his then-wife Marilyn Monroe, the film starred Monroe, Clark Gable, and Montgomery Clift, 3 icons whose real-life struggles mirrored their troubled characters. Filming in the Nevada desert pushed everyone to breaking points as temperatures regularly exceeded 100 degrees. Director John Huston's gambling addiction led to him frequently abandoning the set to lose chunks of the film's budget in nearby casinos. Monroe's marriage to Miller was disintegrating during production. She frequently missed days of shooting and required dozens of takes for simple scenes, relying increasingly on pills and alcohol. She would die just 19 months after the film's release from an overdose. The most immediate tragedy struck Clark Gable. At 59, he insisted on performing his own stunts despite the brutal heat, including being dragged across the desert floor by a truck. Just days after filming completed, Gable suffered a massive heart attack and died, with doctors pointing to the physical strain of the production as a contributing factor. Montgomery Clift, already in declining health after a disfiguring car accident years earlier, eerily predicted his own fate, telling friends, "This film is cursed, and I'll be next to go." True to his premonition, he died a few years later at just 45. Film crews later spoke of an oppressive atmosphere during filming, a sense of impending doom that seemed to follow the production and ultimately claimed its stars. cementing The Misfits as Hollywood's most bizarrely cursed project. Judy Garland's studio-enforced diet. Behind Judy Garland's rainbow was a nightmarish reality. At just 16 years old during The Wizard of Oz, MGM executives were already forcing her onto a studio-mandated diet so extreme it would be considered abuse by today's standards, and ultimately contributed to her lifelong addiction issues. Studio head Louis B. Mayer, obsessed with Garland's weight, placed the teenage star on a regimen that defies belief. Chicken soup, black coffee, 80 cigarettes daily to suppress appetite, and diet pills, actually amphetamines, that would eventually lead to her dependency. MGM even drafted a special diet contract, a legally binding document allowing them to fine Garland if she gained weight. The control was absolute. Studio employees monitored her food intake around the clock, with one executive reportedly stationed outside restaurant bathroom stalls to ensure she didn't purge her food after eating. When filming The Wizard of Oz, she was forced to wear a painful corset-like device that constricted her torso to appear slimmer on camera, despite already being a healthy weight for her age. Most disturbing was the psychological warfare. Mayer would refer to her as "my little hunchback" in meetings, and instructed studio commissary staff to refuse her food if she tried to eat normally. Studio doctors administered regular vitamin shots that were actually more amphetamines to keep her energy up while starving. By her early 22s, Garland had developed a full-blown addiction to the pills the studio had forced upon her, starting a tragic cycle that would follow her throughout her life. Her daughter Liza Minnelli later revealed that Garland never developed normal eating patterns due to these early experiences, fluctuating between starvation and binging for the rest of her life. The price of Garland's fame was her health, her childhood, and ultimately contributed to her early death at 47. The strange death of George Reeves. Television's first Superman died under circumstances so suspicious and bizarre they could have been ripped from a film noir plot. George Reeves, beloved by millions as the Man of Steel, was found dead with a bullet wound to the head in 1959, launching one of Hollywood's most persistent mysteries. The official ruling was self-inflicted, but the bizarre circumstances surrounding the incident have fueled conspiracy theories for decades. On the 16th of June 1959, Reeves was entertaining his fiancée Leonore Lemmon and friends at his Benedict Canyon home. According to witnesses, a seemingly cheerful Reeves excused himself and went upstairs. Moments later, a gunshot rang out. The strangeness began immediately. Guests waited a conspicuously long time before calling police, and evidence appeared to have been tampered with before authorities arrived. Reeves' body showed bruising inconsistent with the official explanation, and the gun found near him had no fingerprints. Most peculiarly, Reeves had just signed a lucrative deal for more Superman episodes and was preparing for his honeymoon the following week. The plot thickened with the involvement of Eddie Mannix, a powerful MGM executive with mob connections. Reeves had carried on a long affair with Mannix's wife Toni, and some believe Mannix arranged a hit disguised as suicide. Others point to Reeves's fiancée Lemmon, who reportedly told guests earlier that evening he's going to shoot himself. Police investigation was suspiciously cursory, no fingerprints were taken, and witnesses gave conflicting statements that went unchallenged. The case was quickly closed despite these inconsistencies. Hollywood insiders whispered that powerful forces had ensured a swift conclusion to the case, leaving the strange death of television's Superman an unsolved mystery that endures to this day. Howard Hughes's Hollywood eccentricities. Howard Hughes wasn't just a brilliant filmmaker and aviation tycoon. He was Hollywood's most bizarre executive, whose obsessions and paranoid behaviors created a surreal workplace for anyone unfortunate enough to work under his control. His eccentricities went far beyond normal quirks into the realm of the truly disturbing. As owner of RKO Pictures, Hughes developed increasingly peculiar production demands. He installed a special private bathroom on the studio lot that only he could use, complete with specially designed tissue boxes and soap dispensers to avoid contamination. When visiting film sets, he reportedly wore tissue boxes as shoes to avoid germs and communicated with directors through handwritten notes even when standing beside them. His most bizarre Hollywood fixation involved actress Jane Russell. During production of The Outlaw, Hughes became obsessively focused on displaying Russell's figure to maximum effect. He went so far as to design a specialized bra for her using aircraft engineering principles. Though Russell later admitted she found it so uncomfortable, she secretly wore her own undergarments instead. Perhaps most disturbing was Hughes's inventory of actresses' bodies. He mandated that all female contract players have their measurements photographed and cataloged from multiple angles, creating a disturbing database he would review privately. Actresses reported being called to bizarre measurement meetings, where they were photographed like specimens. As his mental health deteriorated, Hughes retreated into complete seclusion but maintained control over RKO through bizarre proxy communications. Studio executives sometimes received rambling memos at 3 a.m., with instructions about minute details in films Hughes hadn't actually seen. By the time he sold RKO in 1955, Hughes had transformed from eccentric genius to Hollywood's most feared and bizarre figure, a phantom executive whose obsessions and paranoia had taken on legendary proportions. The bizarre final prank on John Barrymore. John Barrymore, the legendary actor from America's most famous theatrical family, became the center of Hollywood's most macabre prank, one that occurred after he was already dead. The incident was so outrageous it became Tinseltown legend and inspired scenes in later films. When Barrymore died in 1942, his friends decided to honor his notorious prankster reputation with one final outlandish stunt. According to multiple witnesses, including director Raoul Walsh, they borrowed Barrymore's corpse from the funeral home before his burial. The group, which allegedly included actors Errol Flynn and W.C. Fields, propped Barrymore's body in an armchair in Walsh's living room. The plan? To shock their friend Flynn when he returned home from a night of heavy drinking. When Flynn staggered in and discovered what appeared to be Barrymore sitting in the dimly lit room, he reportedly nearly collapsed in terror before realizing it was his friend's corpse. While some details have been disputed over the decades, enough credible witnesses confirmed that some version of this macabre prank did indeed occur. Flynn himself later admitted in interviews that it happened, though he claimed he wasn't as frightened as others reported. The incident reflected the dark gallows humor that permeated Hollywood's elite inner circles, a world where even death became fodder for elaborate jokes. It also revealed how differently bodies were handled before modern funeral regulations. This post-mortem prank became so legendary that actor Peter Sellers reportedly requested a similar joke be played with his body after his death. The Barrymore incident inspired scenes in the 1981 film S.O.B. and has become part of Hollywood folklore, showing that in the film capital's golden age, not even the final curtain could stop the show. The Technicolor torture of The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz dazzled audiences with its magical transition from black and white Kansas to Technicolor Oz, but creating that vibrant wonderland came at a brutal physical cost to the actors that modern Hollywood would consider criminal abuse. The Technicolor dream was actually a waking nightmare for much of the cast. The early three-strip Technicolor process required blindingly intense lighting. Arc lamps burned so hot that set temperatures frequently exceeded 100 degrees, causing several extras to collapse from heat exhaustion. Stars often performed in sweltering conditions, wearing heavy costumes that became dangerously hot under the lights. The makeup was even worse, a toxic blend that more resembled industrial paint than cosmetics. The Wicked Witch's green makeup contained copper-based pigments so toxic that actress Margaret Hamilton suffered severe skin burns when it seeped into wounds after a pyrotechnic stunt went wrong. She spent 6 weeks recovering in the hospital. Most horrifying was the fate of Buddy Ebsen, originally cast as the Tin Man. The aluminum dust in his silver makeup coated his lungs, triggering a severe reaction that left him struggling to breathe. He was hospitalized and replaced by Jack Haley, who narrowly avoided the same fate when the makeup was reformulated, though still dangerous. Even the snow in the famous poppy field scene was pure asbestos fibers, raining down on the actors take after take. The Munchkin actors suffered particularly in their heavy costumes under the intense heat, with several requiring oxygen between takes. MGM required actors to sign special Technicolor health waivers, acknowledging risks of temporary blindness, skin damage, and respiratory problems. Stars like Judy Garland later recalled the production as physically torturous despite its magical appearance on screen. The price of cinema's most beloved fantasy was paid in very real suffering by nearly everyone involved in bringing Oz to life. The truth about Fatty Arbuckle's trial. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was comedy royalty, earning an unprecedented $1 million contract in 1921. Then his career vanished overnight in one of Hollywood's first and most devastating scandals, when he was accused of a heinous act that led to the death of actress Virginia Rape. The ensuing media frenzy permanently altered how Hollywood handled celebrities. After a wild party at San Francisco's St. Francis Hotel on Labor Day weekend 1921, Rape fell seriously ill and died days later from a ruptured bladder. Her friend Maud Delmont accused Arbuckle of assaulting the actress, claiming his weight had caused her internal injuries. Newspapers exploded with lurid, fabricated details. William Randolph Hearst's papers ran the scandal on front pages for months, with headlines like "Fatty Arbuckle's Victim," detailed entirely fictional accounts of what supposedly occurred. Almost overnight, Arbuckle went from beloved comedian to national villain. Despite flimsy evidence and Delmont's questionable credibility, she was known to blackmail celebrity. Arbuckle endured 3 trials. His first 2 ended in hung juries. At the third, he was acquitted in just 6 minutes. The jury even issued an unprecedented apology. Acquittal is not enough for Roscoe Arbuckle. "We feel a great injustice has been done him." But the damage was irreversible. Studios canceled his films, theaters refused to show them, and he was effectively blacklisted. The scandal prompted the creation of Hollywood's first morality clause in contracts and the Hays Code that would censor film content for decades. What's most tragic is that medical evidence suggested Rape had a chronic bladder condition exacerbated by poor quality prohibition alcohol, not any wrongdoing by Arbuckle. He spent years directing under a pseudonym before his death in 1933, on the very day Warner Brothers finally offered him a chance at comeback. The Arbuckle case remains Hollywood's most notorious example of trial by media destroying a career, regardless of actual evidence. Clark Gable and Loretta Young's secret child. Hollywood's King Clark Gable and devout Catholic star Loretta Young engaged in one of the industry's most elaborate deceptions, hiding their illegitimate daughter through an unbelievable adoption charade that fooled to the public for decades, while revealing the extreme lengths studios would go to protect stars' images. During the filming of The Call of the Wild in 1935, married Gable and the single Young began an affair. When Young discovered she was pregnant, both stars faced career ruin if the truth emerged. Instead of risking scandal, Young enacted an extraordinary plan with the studio's help. She disappeared from Hollywood, claiming exhaustion, and secretly gave birth in November 1935. After keeping the baby hidden for 19 months with private nurses, Young then publicly adopted her own biological daughter, telling the press she'd fallen in love with the orphan child. The deception worked. Hollywood bought the story completely. Young raised Judy as a single mother, with Gable remaining distant. The ruse required constant vigilance. Young had Judy's ears surgically altered because they prominently stuck out just like Gable's distinctive ears, a trait that was raising eyebrows in Hollywood circles. Judy grew up unaware of her true parentage until 1966, when at age 31, she confronted Young about persistent rumors. Young finally confessed, reportedly trembling and crying as she admitted, "Yes, Clark Gable was your father." The truth remained private until Young's 2000 posthumous autobiography finally acknowledged the decades-long charade. In 2015, Young's daughter-in-law revealed an even darker dimension. Young had confided that Gable had forced himself on her during production, adding a tragic layer to an already complex deception. This elaborate multi-decade cover-up demonstrated the extraordinary measures stars took to maintain carefully constructed public images in an era when scandal could instantly end careers. Peg Entwistle's Hollywood sign tragedy. Peg Entwistle achieved a macabre form of Hollywood immortality by becoming the only person to end her life by jumping from the Hollywood sign, creating one of Tinseltown's most persistent legends, and a chilling metaphor for the industry's broken dreams. In September 1932, a hiker found a woman's shoe, jacket, and purse at the base of the Hollywood sign. Inside was a suicide note reading, "I am afraid I am a coward. I am sorry for everything." If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain. The body of 24-year-old actress Peg Entwistle was found in the ravine below after she had climbed a workman's ladder to the top of the 50-foot HN, jumped. Entwistle had been a promising Broadway actress before moving to Los Angeles to pursue film. Her only major role came in RKO's 13 Women, but much of her performance ended up on the cutting room floor. With the Great Depression in full swing, work was scarce, and Entwistle found herself spiraling into despair. In a cruel twist of Hollywood fate, a letter arrived at her home the day after her death, offering her the lead role in a play about a young woman who takes her own life. The irony was lost on no one. Her story took on an eerie afterlife when multiple witnesses reported seeing a disoriented blonde woman in 1,930 seconds clothing near the Hollywood sign who vanishes when approached. Others claim to smell gardenia perfume, Entwistle's signature scent, when no flowers are present. Entwistle's tragic end has inspired films, plays, and songs, making her more famous in death than in life. Her final act turned her into a cautionary tale about the psychological toll of Hollywood's dream factory, a grim reminder of the real human cost behind the glamour. Errol Flynn's scandalous behavior. Errol Flynn epitomized the dashing Hollywood swashbuckler on screen, but off-screen he lived so outrageously that the phrase "in like Flynn" became slang for womanizing success. His exploits were so notorious they eventually landed him in court facing serious charges that nearly destroyed his career. At the height of his fame, Flynn's Hollywood mansion, nicknamed Cirrhosis by the Sea, hosted legendary parties with hidden cameras allegedly installed in guest bathrooms and bedrooms. His 60-foot yacht, Sirocco, was equally infamous for wild excursions, where Flynn would often appear naked before guests and sail international waters to avoid legal scrutiny. Flynn's drinking was legendary, even by Hollywood standards. Director Michael Curtiz once said, "You can rely on Errol Flynn for nothing except drinking and indulgence." During filming of They Died with Their Boots On, Flynn was reportedly so intoxicated during battle scenes that he accidentally injured several extras with his sword. His recklessness culminated in a 1942 trial when he was charged with inappropriate behavior involving 2 underage girls. The resulting court case became a media sensation. Though Flynn was acquitted, his reputation never fully recovered, and the phrase "in like Flynn" entered popular language as a crude reference to his supposed success with women. Flynn's autobiography, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, detailed escapades so outrageous that many sections were initially considered too scandalous to publish. Despite his declining health from years of excess, Flynn continued his lifestyle until his death at just 50 inches, 1,959. The coroner famously remarked that Flynn had the body of an 80-year-old due to alcohol damage. While studios initially protected Flynn's image, his increasingly erratic behavior and legal troubles eventually became impossible to hide, revealing the extent to which stars could get away with outrageous conduct until it finally became too public to ignore. Alfred Hitchcock's obsessive behavior. The master of suspense created some of cinema's greatest thrillers, but Alfred Hitchcock's behind-the-scenes treatment of his blonde leading ladies revealed a disturbing pattern of obsession and control that would be career-ending in today's Hollywood. His fixation on cool blonde actresses went far beyond professional interest into the realm of psychological torment. Tippi Hedren, star of The Birds, and Marnie, faced the worst of Hitchcock's obsessions. When she rejected his advances, he allegedly tormented her on set, particularly during the infamous attic scene in The Birds, where real birds were thrown at her for 5 days straight. Hedren later revealed he had her dressing room door equipped with a special pathway for him to enter privately. Hitchcock's control extended to wardrobe. He dictated what his actresses wore not just on screen, but in their personal lives and at press events. When Grace Kelly announced her engagement to Prince Rainier, Hitchcock reportedly flew into a rage, feeling betrayed by his star. Perhaps most disturbing was his collection of detailed dossiers on actresses that included their daily routines, food preferences, and intimate details gathered through private investigators. He used this information to manipulate them psychologically during productions. Veronica Cartwright, who appeared in The Birds, later recalled Hitchcock making her sit next to him at meals, where he would describe in graphic detail how certain birds kill their prey, psychological intimidation disguised as research. Discussions. Hitchcock kept a bizarre collection of mannequins resembling his leading ladies in a room near his office. Janet Leigh and others reported seeing their doubles when visiting his workspace, an unsettling reminder of his proprietary view of his actresses. While celebrated as a cinematic genius, Hitchcock's treatment of women revealed a dark side to his brilliance, a controlling, obsessive nature that created masterpieces on screen while inflicting real psychological damage behind the camera. These 15 stories barely scratch the surface of old Hollywood's disturbing reality. The contrast between the glamorous fantasy projected on screen and the often tragic reality behind the scenes reminds us that Tinseltown's golden glow often concealed the darkest shadows. What do you think was the most shocking story from this list? Did any of these change how you view classic Hollywood films or stars? Do you think today's Hollywood is truly different? Or have the abuses just become better hidden behind modern PR machines? Share your thoughts in the comments below.